Hi everybody, it's Meg from Books Off the Beaten Path, and it's time for another early morning book review. Let me just check my time. Oh yeah, I've got plenty of time to do this book review. And so I'll be doing a book review, and then I'll be asking for some suggestions. So let's sorry. Let's dive right into it. Okay, the book I just finished is Virginia Hamilton's The House of Dies Drear. Now, this was written in 1968, and let me read you some of the back. A spellbinding mystery with edge of the seat surprise from the New York Times. It was an ALA Notable Children's Book Mystery Writers of American Edgar Award Best Book School Library Journal. And so what this is about Thomas and his family, move into the House of Dies Drear. And Dies Drear was an abolitionist, and the house is a part of the Underground Railroad. And I had problems with the book, but then after I had problems with the book, I pulled back and I realized that the problems I had with the book was that I wasn't in the right mindset for a children's book. And let me explain. This is a children's book. This is written from the perspective of a child. And so many times anymore, you have books that are written from the perspective of a child, but they're actually written from the perspective of an adult. I can't think of one off the top of my head at the moment, but you know what I'm talking about. You know, like they're adult books, but the main character is a child. This is a children's book written for children. And so at the end of the book, we got very Scooby-Doo. We got very outrageous and kind of silly, and it was written in 1968, and I really wanted to learn about the Underground Railroad, and I didn't learn that much about the Underground Railroad, if anything at all. There is a section in there about these crosses that the slaves would see as they were journeying on, and how the crosses were always up on something, they were never on the ground, and how sometimes they could even be made by dead animals, like the abolitionists would make them with dead animals, and how to read the crosses. And that was pretty interesting. I really enjoyed that part, but that was a minute part of the book. Mostly the book was about Thomas's relocation from his, I believe it was North Carolina home to Ohio, and the mystery of this house. The house has a lot of secret passages, and there's caves we're going into, and there's this older man who is a central character, and they call him Pluto because he lives in these caves underneath, and he's the blacksmith. And I don't know that, I guess kids in 1968 would have gotten that, because I think they were probably more well-read than kids these days. But I felt lacking in it because I thought I was going to learn something. Well, if I was a child, I would have learned a lot. I would have learned a lot about the abolitionists and the slaves running and everything like that. And some of the slaves were sent back. Dies Drear sent some of the slaves back into captivity in order for the greater good, in order to help the other slaves, which was a hard pill to swallow. And it's kind of glossed over in the book a little bit. But again, I was reading it from the perspective of an adult wanting to learn about the Underground Railroad. And this is really a children's book. And if I was a child, then I think I would have learned a lot from it and gotten more from it. So that really kind of comes into my rating on Goodreads yet. At the end, when we got silly, and I'm talking Scooby-Doo silly, we got silly. At the end, I was thinking two stars. And then I pulled back and I was like, well, but you're an adult reading a children's book, and is that really fair? And everything. So I think I'm going to go with 3 or 3.5. I kept the pages turning, but it was so far-fetched at the end. And thankfully, at the end, there is a humiliation that takes place. I don't want to give too much away in case you ever read it. There is a humiliation that takes place that subdues the town bullies. And I liked that a lot. I liked the fact that they were just simply humiliated, and there was no talk of violence, and there was no talk of fisticuffs or guns or anything like that, but they were sufficiently humiliated that they knew they weren't going to try that stuff again. So would I recommend it? Yes, I would recommend it. I've read children's books before. I've read lots of children's books before, and lots of vintage children's books. Remember, and this was written in 1968. But all I'm saying is that when you're going in, don't expect to learn a lot about the Underground Railroad, because that's not really what it's about. It kind of alludes to that, but it's not really what it's about. It's more about this young boy and the way he relates to his father and his new town and the new people that he meets and everything like that. And the fact that they're living in an abolitionist house that's supposed to be haunted, that's kind of fun too. But I don't know. I'm still really on the fence about how to rate this one, because I think it's unfair to rate it as an adult when it's clearly a children's book and it's meant for children to read. So, and there's that. Okay, now, exciting. We are almost at spooky season. And spooky season for me starts September 1st, and it lasts all the way through November until we get into the Christmas season. Even though the Christmas season can be pretty spooky too. Don't forget that old Charles Dickens. He can get pretty spooky at Christmas too. But maybe I'll extend spooky season. Maybe for me, spooky season is when it's cold. You know, when it's cold and dark, everything like that, before we really get into spring. I don't know. But I do know that it starts September 1st. And so I am looking for some books to read. One of the books I'm looking to read is, I think, in our local library, and it's called, The Spellbook of Katrina Van Tassel, because we all know how much I love Sleepy Hollow. And because I'm in such a spooky spirit this year, I am going to join a stitch-along. Do you guys know what that is? You know that I cross-stitch, and you've seen that before. But this is a stitch-along. You can stitch anything spooky. And guess who I'm stitching? Can you guess? Yes, there he is, my favorite anti-hero. Let me show you a picture of him. He is... Oh, let me get it out. Sorry, I should have been more prepared. Because you got things to do, man. You have to wait on me. Here he is right here. I'm getting in there. The Headless Horseman of Sleepy Hollow. I'm in such a Sleepy Hollow mood. I may just read Sleepy Hollow again for the millionth time. But I want some suggestions. I want some good old-fashioned spooky stories. You know, give me some vintage. Give me something, you know, maybe not necessarily vintage, but do we have any good recommendations of things from Salem? You know how much I want to go to Salem. That'll probably never happen. But are there any books that you would recommend that take place in Salem? Read The Crucible several times, so don't recommend that one. That one's a downer. But what spooky books could I read that are in my genre? You know, I don't do a lot of horror, and I'm not a Stephen King fan, but what kind of witchy, ghostly, woodsy, maybe even some folk horror, I might try some folk horror, are you going to recommend for me? That's what I want. I want some recommending. So anyway, that being said, I hope that you guys have a fantastic Tuesday, and I will check you later.